Welcome to the ASIS CPP Mastery Series 2026. The greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic. Peter Drucker. And today, we are going to look at something every serious security professional needs to understand. What's new in ASIS? If you think security is still mainly about guards, CCTV, access control, and protecting a physical facility, think again. The security profession is undergoing a major transformation. Artificial intelligence, cyber threats, information security, intelligence, supply chain risks, emerging technologies, resilience, and new ASIS standards are changing the way security is managed. And here is the important part for CPP candidates. These aren't just technology trends. They are changing the way security professionals assess risk, make decisions, and protect organizations. In this presentation, we'll examine 20 key developments that every modern security professional and CPP candidate should know. So let's begin by understanding the bigger picture. Welcome to this special episode of the ASIS CPP Mastery Series 2026. This presentation is focused on 20 key developments every security professional should know. We will look at where the profession is going, not just where it has been. We'll explore developments in security, risk management, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, information security, emerging technologies, standards, intelligence, and organizational resilience. The objective is simple. Understand what is changing, understand why it matters, and understand how it connects to the CPP mindset. Because successful CPP preparation isn't simply about memorizing concepts. It is about learning to think like a security manager. Modern security is fully integrated. Look at the areas ASIS is emphasizing through GSX 2026: executive protection, governance, information security, intelligence, investigations, resilience, site security, and personnel security. These are no longer isolated functions. Consider a modern organization. A cyber incident can affect physical operations. A supply chain problem can create an operational vulnerability. An intelligence warning can change executive protection requirements. Artificial intelligence can improve surveillance, but it can also introduce new risks. And a security incident can quickly become a business continuity or reputational issue. So the modern security professional must connect the dots. RE. Cyber. Information. Risk. Intelligence. Technology. People. Resilience. They all form part of one larger security ecosystem. The key takeaway is simple. Physical security no longer exists in isolation. And this brings us to one of the most important ideas in this entire presentation. The security paradigm is shifting. In the traditional model, facility security focused heavily on physical protection, guards, CCTV, access control, and perimeter protection. Executive protection could be viewed as a bodyguard, vehicle, and route. Organizational security often focused primarily on preventing and responding to incidents. And the security perimeter was essentially the physical property line. The modern approach is much broader. Security is increasingly risk-based, intelligence-driven, technology-enabled, and resilience-focused. Executive protection incorporates threat assessment, protective intelligence, risk management, and crisis planning. Organizational security moves from simply prevent and react toward prevent, prepare, respond, recover, and adapt. And perhaps most importantly, the security perimeter now extends beyond the facility. It includes digital assets, information, people, suppliers, technology, and third parties. So when we talk about the future of security, we're really talking about a shift from protecting a place to managing risk across an entire ecosystem. That is the mindset we need to carry throughout this presentation and throughout our CPP preparation. Now let's move to one of the most fundamental principles in security management. Risk assessment remains the foundation. The modern risk environment is much broader than traditional physical threats. Today, a security professional may need to consider physical, cyber, personnel, supply chain, geopolitical, and operational risks, all of which can interact with one another. This is why risk assessment must come before selecting security controls. We first need to understand the asset, the threat, the vulnerability, the likelihood, and the potential impact. Then we can determine the appropriate security measures and evaluate the remaining or residual risk. And this is where standards become important. Standards help organizations move toward consistency, professionalization, benchmarking, governance, and continuous improvement. For CPP candidates, remember this principle. Don't start with the security solution. Start with the risk. The control should be a response to the risk, not the other way around. Here's an important development that every modern security professional needs to understand. Information security can produce physical consequences. Consider the sequence shown here. A cyber attack compromises an operational technology system. That leads to an OT compromise. The compromised system can then cause physical disruption, which creates an operational impact, and ultimately, potentially, significant business loss. This is particularly important in environments such as industrial control systems, building management systems, connected security systems, and critical infrastructure. Imagine a cyber attack that compromises a building management system. The result may not simply be lost data. It could affect VAC, access control, elevators, power systems, or other physical operations. That is why the boundary between cybersecurity and physical security is becoming increasingly difficult to define. For the CPP professional, the lesson is clear. Cyber risk must be considered whenever technology controls a physical process. Artificial intelligence presents security professionals with a unique challenge because it is both a threat and a tool. On the threat side, AI can increase the scale and sophistication of attacks. Think about deepfakes, social engineering, phishing, automated attacks, and identity manipulation. The attacker can use technology to make deception faster, more convincing, and more scalable. But on the other side, security professionals can also use AI as a powerful security tool. AI can support video analytics, anomaly detection, threat intelligence, investigations, and security operations. So the question isn't simply, is AI good or bad for security? The better question is, how do we govern and manage AI so that its benefits outweigh its risks? And that brings us to the principle at the bottom of this slide. Technology can support security judgment, but it cannot replace human accountability. A CPP professional remains responsible for understanding the risks, validating decisions, and ensuring that technology is being used appropriately. Perhaps one of the biggest changes in modern security is the disappearance of the traditional organizational perimeter. In the past, we could think of the security boundary as the physical property line. Today, risk can enter through employees, contractors, vendors, suppliers, technology providers, cloud platforms, and logistics partners. In other words, the organization can be attacked through relationships as well as through its own facilities. This is why third-party and supply chain risk have become increasingly important. A vendor may have access to sensitive information. A contractor may have privileged access to a facility. A technology provider may control critical security infrastructure. A cloud provider may store important organizational data. Each relationship can therefore introduce a new vulnerability. The CPP mindset is to look beyond the organization itself and ask, where does our risk originate, and who or what has access to our assets? Modern security is therefore no longer about protecting a closed perimeter. It is about managing risk across an interconnected ecosystem. Security intelligence is fundamentally changing the way security professionals operate. The traditional approach is often reactive, an incident occurs, and security responds. The modern approach is anticipatory. Security intelligence helps identify threats, recognize warning indicators, support executive protection, strengthen investigations, and improve strategic decision-making. This creates an important shift from what happened to what is likely to happen and what can we do about it. For a CPP professional, intelligence should support decision-making before the threat reaches the perimeter. Don't wait for the incident. Use intelligence to anticipate the threat. Security technology is advancing rapidly. We're seeing AI surveillance, automated license plate recognition, facial recognition, drones, robotics, IoT sensors, and increasingly sophisticated security platforms. But technological capability alone does not equal good security. Every technology requires governance. The critical questions are: can we do it? Should we do it? And most importantly, under what controls should we do it? That means establishing purpose, authorization, access controls, data protection, retention requirements, audit mechanisms, and accountability. For the CPP professional, the objective isn't simply to deploy more technology. It is to deploy the right technology for the right purpose, with appropriate governance and controls. Modern security cannot focus exclusively on preventing incidents. No organization can eliminate every threat. That's why organizational resilience has become increasingly important. Think of resilience as a continuous cycle. Prevent, prepare, respond, recover, adapt. Prevention reduces the likelihood of an incident. Preparation ensures that the organization is ready when prevention fails. Response manages the immediate consequences. Recovery restores critical operations. And adaptation uses lessons learned to make the organization stronger for the next event. This connects security with crisis management, business continuity, emergency response, disaster recovery, and lessons learned. A mature security program isn't measured only by how well it prevents incidents. It is also measured by how effectively the organization survives, recovers, and adapts. Now let's bring everything together. The modern security program should be viewed as an integrated ecosystem. At the top is enterprise risk. That risk drives the security strategy. The strategy brings together people, processes, and technology. These protect multiple dimensions of the organization: physical assets, information, personnel, and intelligence. When an incident occurs, these capabilities support incident response and organizational resilience. And the final layer is continuous improvement. This is important for every CPP candidate to understand. The domains of security management are not separate boxes. They interact. Risk influences strategy. Strategy determines controls. Technology supports those controls. Intelligence informs decisions. Resilience prepares the organization for failure. And continuous improvement brings the lessons back into the system. That is the modern security ecosystem, and that is the mindset of the contemporary CPP professional. Now we come to one of the most practical tools for CPP candidates: how to turn current security events into CPP-level analysis. Don't simply read a security news story and memorize what happened. Instead, process it through a structured framework. Start with the news. Then identify the underlying security concept. Connect that concept to the relevant CPP domain. Next, determine the broader security principle involved. And finally, ask how that principle would be applied in a real-world scenario. For example, a cyber attack against critical infrastructure isn't just a news story. It can lead us to information security, risk management, critical infrastructure protection, incident response, and business continuity. This approach transforms current events into meaningful professional learning. Don't memorize the news. Analyze the security lesson behind the news. And this brings us to the most important takeaway from this entire presentation. Think like a security manager. When you hear about a security incident, don't stop at what happened. Go deeper. What asset was at risk? Who or what was the threat? What vulnerability existed? What was the potential impact? What controls should have been implemented? What is the residual risk? How should management respond? And finally, how can the organization become more resilient? This is the difference between simply knowing security terminology and actually applying security management principles. The future of security is risk-based, technology-enabled, intelligence-driven, resilience-focused, and business-aligned. And that is the mindset we want to develop through the ASIS CPP Mastery Series. And with that, we come to the end of this presentation on what's new in ASIS in 2026. We've explored how the security profession is evolving, From risk assessment and information security to AI, intelligence, emerging technology, supply chain risk, resilience, governance, and the integrated security ecosystem. The most important lesson is this. A modern CPP professional must look beyond individual security controls and understand the entire risk environment. Stay curious. Stay current. And most importantly, think strategically. If you found this presentation useful, make sure to follow the ASIS CPP Mastery Series for more CPP-focused lessons, security concepts, standards, real-world scenarios, and professional insights. Thank you for watching. Until the next lesson, keep learning, keep analyzing, and keep thinking like a security manager. Stay updated. Think strategically. Master the CPP.